demonic possession of you.
See, here's the thing, Monty. I actually agree with that. That's how I think of myself. I think of Thorin as sort of like a demonic entity that I allow to possess me. And here's the problem, Monty, is that I can't just banish him completely because he's brought me this wealth, he's brought me this success, he's got this magnetic quality to him that I actually, as a person, don't really have. I actually can be quite a boring guy in some senses. I'm just into the shit I'm into. But the problem is, it's like to allow him agency in this world. To give me those things also allows him sometimes to go a bit wild and to do some crazy shit, and so unfortunately those elements, all of a sudden I just wake up after the show, I'm face down on the ground, I'm in sort of like a chalk circle on the ground. There are markings like on my wrist, and then I wake up and I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, it must have been someone inside. And I think, oh, it's okay then. And I say the banishing words, I do the dust around the circle. I go and sit down at the computer, and then I think to myself, oh well, the episode's in the can anyway. It says his is recorded, so I'm sure everything's fine. Then I load up Twitter, and it's like, there's just an onslaught of people. How could you say that? Oh, you're Satan. You're. And it's like, no, it wasn't me, guys. It wasn't me. It's unfair.
How do we get rid of this? Is there some sort of esports church we can go to in order to exercise it forever?
No, the thing is, listen, Monty, anyone who knows about how the spirit world works knows that actually these forces aren't evil, Monty. They're not actually like demons, or they're not like evil in the sense of like the Judeo-Christian mindset. Okay, the problem with these things is that, like anything in life and nature, okay, they have like their realm within which, if you work with them in a certain way, they could be beneficial. Like a bee can sting you, or it can make honey, and you can get the honey, and you can not get stung by it. You can use the honey, okay. So you got to know how to use these things. So in a lot of these traditions, okay, the way that you placate these spirits and get them to work on your behalf is you have to give them offerings. Now listen, people are going to think of something really sinister, like a horror movie, like killing a young woman or something. That's not what I'm saying we have to do at all here. Sometimes we can just have offerings of once you give the spirit a chance to have agency in the world, to express itself, sometimes that alone's enough. It wants to like interact with the human world, it wants to be able to change things and play a part, and it wants to have gratitude for doing so. But occasionally, if things get out of control, a way that you can actually sate it is just by blood sacrifice, money. So if a team like TSM is to get brutally slaughtered in the way that they were by Samsung White, then that will actually like placate the demon with a blood offering for a while,
I don't think it did. I think you're absolutely wrong. I think that it's more like a shark that comes there when there's blood in the water, because that's what actually happened, right?
Okay. I don't know. I have to say, Monty, that after that second game in that series, I was like euphoric at that point. I'd like ascended to another plane. It was a beautiful. I can't lie. It was wonderful. And by the way, not just wonderful just because TSM were getting bashed in. That was actually a side point. But also just because it was actually just insane to see the best team destroying any other top team like that. That alone was insane.
It was rather insane.
That's certainly a thing that I could definitely see happening. Probably the most likely scenario, but I still think that perhaps there's a chance.
Like, I think LMQ versus Fnatic can be a fun game, but here's the problem, Crumbs. I think when LMQ plays OMG, that's where the psychological factor comes in. LMQ know that these are our Chinese overlords, These were the gods when we were the scrubs. So they're going to be like, bow to the master.
That matchup has to be like, it's not even about worlds for them. It's got to be it's about China. It'll be like, look, we left China, we became better, or like, yeah, you left China and you fucking suck, that's why you left, things like that.
Here's what I would love. I would fucking love it, and everyone on Reddit has to worship LMQ if they do this. If LMQ play OMG and they win, and they just whip out an American flag and start running around the crowd with it, like, that would be like some Rocky level shit. Like, you'd have to, when they come home, I want a hero's welcome, I want them like carried on people's shoulders, like, you are now Americans.
Yeah, okay? Exactly. That's what I want to see, right?
I want Obama like waiting with like citizenship papers, like when they get off the plane.
Also, any fans who go to that game when OMG plays LMQ, I want you to chant USA, USA. That doesn't even make sense because it's NA, but I want you to chant USA while LMQ are winning. Okay, that's embrace it. It's a melting pot. Okay. Well, not for long, apparently, according to Riot's rules. But okay, it was a melting pot before Riot succeeded in doing what like Bill O'Reilly's been trying to do and shutting those borders off. They finally patrolling them borders. Okay.
One at a time now. That's what you do.
Got to get your green card, then you're allowed to play. Okay, literally. Okay, so Group D.
I felt like it could be Samsung White, but I don't know. I feel like they're just gonna end up Well, I mean, I don't know. There's that whole conspiracy about how Samsung White and Samsung Blue could like throw games to not play each other, but like every time Samsung White plays Samsung Blue, it feels like Blue wins. So
okay, let me address this. Yeah. So there are actually, for those people who are already saying, oh, well, you know, they could throw a game so that they don't end up on opposite sides of the bracket, all Samsung finals, you know, whatever. In the last 2 times that they have played, in both instances, it was more advantageous to the Samsung organization to have Samsung White win. In Champion Spring, it was more advantageous because it would have probably secured White a spot at Worlds no matter what by making 2 consecutive finals and just having circuit points. And in the second one, Samsung Blue was already guaranteed to go to Worlds. And so by having Samsung White win, they would have automatically qualified both teams for Worlds instead of forcing White into like this tiebreaker and possibly going through the gauntlet. So we've already had 2 instances where the Samsung organization Blue has won in both times where it was disadvantageous for Blue to win. So I don't want to hear like all this.
I've got
like,
a counter argument for you here, Monty.
Oh boy, what is it?
If you finish first and second, you get like $1.5 million or something.
Yeah, fair enough. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen.
I was going to say the same thing.
Maybe it'll happen.
Just saying, there's a lot of reasons.
You're right.
There's like,
you're right, and there could be potential collusion where the players agree to throw, you know, or whatever, so that they meet in the finals, and then they just agree to split the pot down the middle. Possible.
Damn, the collusion.
No, I know.
Yeah,
listen.
Who
No organization would get involved in collusion. But here's one thing, though, Dom. I know that if anyone was to get involved in collusion, that it won't be found out because Dandy is like sat next to Spirit in like a lunch hall, like eating at a cafeteria. Like, and when we collude, afterwards, I'm going to spend my money on a motorcycle, and then like a riot guy will be sat behind them, like. Arrest them after the final. Not only that, in game 1, they won't just do an ARAM in game 1. Like, well, this final's very competitive.
Is this one of your Thorin hypotheticals?
Yeah, this is if aliens came to Earth and kidnapped. If they mind controlled 2 NA teams,
Curse and Dignitas, and put them at a Jimmy John's.
If they mind controlled 2 teams. And made them, even though these 2 teams, it was impossible for them not to finish top 2, made them find a way to give up all their prize money to fucking Team Dynamic and Nintendo Dex, which, by the way, I'm sure even now he thanks you for that donation to his...
Oh, yeah, man, that was great. We actually calculated it during the match. We lost a collective $40,000 because we got fined, and then we also lost the prize pool. We lost like 1.1K per player for every minute that we were like playing the game. Like it was like you
basically paid Riot to attend the event.
Yeah, man, that was great.
Okay, it's cool.
The best of times.
Yeah.
But luckily, that was the only blemish on your record, and after that, you went forwards and you became well known as one of the veterans. You won the Lady Bing Sportsmanship Award this year. Okay, yeah.
Around it.
I actually have a theory. I've said it on this. Yeah.
I also have a theory. Yeah, like now I can become foreign for a second. I can become foreign. Like, okay, I did, and like I can bring a counterpoint. Like you used to be, and I think you still are a Counter-Strike fan, right?
Sure thing, Bob.
Yeah, but didn't you met with some players that they just played the game 25 hours? Or not 2 weeks, like a week and a half, and there were players that were playing. Yeah? Let me finish. And there were players that were playing 200 hours per 3 weeks, or I don't know how many weeks. And the player that didn't even play the game was still better than the other guy. We are talking about pure talent.
See, the problem here is it's impossible to read when Forgiven's asking a rhetorical question when he's actually asking you a question. Like, he'll be like, and isn't it true there's a player who's playing 24 hours? I'm like, yeah, there's some... Excuse me, let me finish, please. And then this player, he's playing the 23 hours, and isn't he better? And then just silence, like, oh, was I supposed to answer that one? Okay.
I don't know what happens on the US server. I've never played on it, so...
You don't miss much. But I still, like... You didn't answer, like...
Dude, you never answer any... Like, listen, first of all, don't get mad, fans. I actually know Forgiven. That's why I can go in and like this. But he says Monty didn't answer his question. All Forgiven does is fucking ask questions himself. He's like... He sounds like one of those cop shows, like... Why was the suspect there at 8:59? Why was he? Where was Hoover in all this? And what were the CIA doing?
He's just a firm believer in the Socratic method, man.
Okay. I've actually, you might have noticed, I've actually learned to embrace and love watching Save play. Because what I've realised, Monty, is, like I told you before, I can no longer actually enjoy Flame playing in the real world, because the real world is harsh and full of nightmares and darkness, and it's full of a world. Yeah, you've got no other carries, and all the bans go to you, and people focus you and dive you, and you don't ever get to play the way you want to play. You can't be free, Monty, and express yourself. So what I've realized is save is like, like one of those things like where a little kid like wants to be like a superhero. Save made a wish that he wanted to be like Flame, and so he is like 8/10 of a Flame. Okay, he's got everything like a Flame, but he gets to live a fantasy camp that would for Flame would be a fantasy camp where he has like a decent mid laner, and then magically in this series he had an AD carry that could survive laning phase. Like, this is like a fantasy camp for what. Imagine if the world could be like that for Flame. It can't, but I just like to imagine. I replaced the nameplate with Flame, and I'm like, this is what it should be like, boys. This is great right now. That's why I've learned to enjoy it, Monty. The true carry top lane,
It's true. He is the last of the top carries. Like, people should start photoshopping him on top of like Daniel Day-Lewis and the last of the Mohicans, where like Save is like running there. He's the badass warrior, the last of his kind.
And Flame can be that dude who was like, because he was like a half Mohican or something. Flame can be that other guy who was like his brother who gets killed or something, where he was like the second to last Mohican who got killed. He gets killed just before Flame saves the day, as it were,
But I mean, Save played Kassadin, Kale, like his rise is like ban worthy. I mean, this guy, what a boss.
By the way, Monty, one of the games, just to bring this up to fuck with you, there was a game, I think it was game 1 that Someday played against KT Shield, where you spent the whole game. It was like Monty on his like Rise countdown, and he was like, "Man, when this Rise gets going, he's going to be so. They haven't stopped the Rise. Someday's Rise is going to have such an effect." And I think at the end of the game, he was just like 0-0-0 with like a million farm and did absolutely nothing. All he did, Monty, was at one point teleport in, home guard around, and help them get 1 kill, and that was like it. That's all he did in the whole game.
Well, I
think you overhyped that Rise, Monty.
We can't always play Rise like Save does, can we?
The word that should be found. Well, let's say it like this: if someone doesn't play the way I think the game should be, and I'm particularly a nobody in this.
You really are point. A double F fan, aren't you?
Yeah. Well,
keep going.
For example, that if this guy doesn't play like I think the game should be played, I don't consider him the best. Like.
Then why the fuck are you such a fan of Reckless? Because he doesn't play at all like you like to play the game.
I'm not Reckless. I even said before, but I consider this guy a bit lower than others, and you hated me because I included Rallis. What if I included Mixa and stuff, and all those players you hate and you don't even want to hear about? I'm just saying that Reckless worked with what he had completely, and he was the best. Sneaky. It was like Nami. I thought he played like Nami. He was good player.
You're blowing my mind right now. It's the other way around. Reckless didn't make use of all the talent he had around him. Sneaky made 100% capacity efficiency on the fucking dog shit that he has to work with. He has a dude who's like a 28-year-old fucking stoner, like in a frat house, like, "Hey man, why don't we play Ash Zyra this lane?" Like, yeah, the guy's really smart, but in game he's just an okay spot player. This guy's making miracles out of that. He's like that mother who stays at home on Christmas and she makes a full Christmas meal out of a fucking ready-made ramen packet and some fucking chestnuts or something.
Oh wow, man.
How the fuck can you think Unlimited's super good and then you're like, "Nah, Sneaky, I'm not even impressed. Not that good."
I don't know.
Dude,
just different. Yes.
Forgiven. How many titles has Sneaky won? He's won all of them, bro. He's won LCS.
So, is he the most successful AD carry in the history of NA? Yes. Is he the best? No. Where you have your answer?
I feel like we've gotten somewhere. We haven't really. We've gotten nowhere. We've just circled back on ourselves, much like fucking Ouroboros, the snake that eats its own tail. And then this is the end of the episode. Forgiven, do you have any final thoughts for everyone who watched the show today?
You guys are too funny.
Oh, one of the teams we haven't talked about at the moment is Curse Academy. So Curse Academy were one of the teams who were really, really close to actually getting into LCS, just from the promotion match, almost beat CLG. Now I think hasn't the lineup changed a little bit since then? Hasn't one player changed? The top laner I think got changed, right? Curse Academy?
2 players.
Okay, who were the players who got changed?
There's a guy named Cop.
That's true,
Yeah. He plays Curse Academy, and they have a new guy named Hanser. Replace Chris.
Right, okay. So what, can you tell us anything about this new Curse Academy? Is it different from the old one? Is it similar style of play? What do you think?
I think it's actually pretty similar. They still rely a lot on Keen and Bunny making the big plays. Saints in there to miss Smite, and then stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
But other than, pretty much the same thing. But they're looking pretty solid. They're definitely one of my two favorites to get into LCS. Obviously there are little sister team as well, so
Saints probably going to struggle to adapt to this match because a lot of the items and like buffs and stuff actually affect Smite and change the timing of it, how strong it is. So no, they've just made his life even harder in many ways. Obviously Riot's out to get him.
Now you can miss Smite on champions too.
The problem is though, especially when Saints said that thing about I think Bonnie Fufu will be better or whatever. It's like, I know why he says it, because if you remember, right after that in the promotion match was when we saw Bonnie Fufu do that crazy thresh flay and that nice play, but I wanted to step in and I wanted to be like Kanye West and step in and like, Saint, but I'm happy for you, Bonnie Fufu, but Xpecial had one of the best flays of all time on you when you were on Jarvan, bro. Like, that's the diss I'd have to land on him, because I know he's still secretly salty about that sequence of plays, especially when you flayed him and pulled him back under the tower so he took tower aggro. That's one of the all-time Saint highlights of him just getting wrecked. You think that's why he's salty on this issue?
I feel bad for Saint because he has the most this guy just got shit on plays of all the players in NA. It's just misbites, gets hooked in the chair. I feel bad for him, but
time left.
Go ahead then, my friend. TSM versus Samsung White.
Predictions.
Monty.
You should start.
I read an article actually. Well, I say article. It was actually a Reddit thread. That's how bad I've gotten now. I'm actually elevating random Reddit. That's article stars. That was in Time magazine, I believe. No, I read a Reddit thread, Monty, where it explained that actually TSM, a young man out there had watched Samsung play, okay, and he realized they have weaknesses. And you know what else? There's some of their players you can tilt. I can't imagine who they could be, but yeah, some of their players can tilt. He's absolutely right on all these things about their weaknesses. Some of their players can be tilted. So if TSM can just tilt some of their players, then they can win this series.
It's so easy. Why didn't I think about this, Duncan? I was the answer was in front of everybody's face all along. All the teams in the world, all the teams in Korea that have been playing against the Samsung teams all year, it was so simple. You just have to tilt a player.
What it made me realize was
so easy. Just tilt him. Just go over there. Just take his chair and just boop. It's done. That's it.
Actually, Coma has coached SKT in 3 best-of-5s. So what I've realized now is Coma isn't a real coach. He's a PR fake. Yeah, we get the joke. We all know where the memes are going on here. But come on, man. That doesn't work. First of all, how do you tilt Korean players? I know how you do it. What you have to do is you have to sit down with them and say stuff like, Piglet, you just won an undefeated season, but actually you didn't carry as high as you could have. Think about your family and what you kind of represent here and your duty as a Korean man. You don't have time to do that. What? And they don't even understand English anyway. So what are you going to say to them? The whole scenario is ridiculous. How are you going to tilt them? Also, here is the best line. And someone just said this in response to that article. And I think this line is so funny. It just sums up the article. Okay. Someone just said, yeah, because TSM don't have any tilt-worthy players. Yes. Game over. Shut it down. We're going home. Game over.
Sorry, just mic drop.
What would be amazing is if the Samsung players do speak English and they read that thread and they were like, well, we're already going to dominate, but you know what? We could actually tilt them. And then they just walk up to Wild Turtle you're a fucking retard. He's like, what? They're like, were you retarded? Well, let's see how this works out then.
All right.
Just as your only good champion, we're going to ban it. Shit. There we go.
I want this to be an official meme from now on. I want whenever anybody starts overblowing a team's chances to win, I want everybody just to respond with just tilt them. That's what I want. Just tilt them. It's not hard. Just tilt them. Just tilt them.
Yeah.
That will actually when this is what I want. Okay. It's not about whether a team has a big disadvantage. It's about in place of actual analysis, when someone makes a claim without backing it up with any analytic thought whatsoever, the only respectable answer now is just tilt them.
And let's not forget, when does Samsung White tilt? against the team that is their sister team that is like built to defeat them. That's the only time. Oh, and against SK Telecom, the best team of all time. They're the only two teams they've lost to in fucking a year.
And
Like-
they have a winning
like, they
record
tilt-
against SK Telecom anyway. And like they've made top 3. White has made top 3 in the last 5 consecutive seasons of champions. Like, they're ridiculously consistent. Sure, they've only won once, but they've been, and they've been third more often than any other position.
Yeah, but they've never played TSM, They've never played those masters of the setting tilt off in their
Yeah,
opponents.
the
like
stress from the community. Man.
yeah.
You have
The
you
mind
have to
games.
all the fans and the TSM shout. You go to the stage and you hear TSM, TSM, TSM. You just tilt. If you hear.
The only way Samsung White is going to tilt so that TSM can win is if Loco Doco's the starting AD carry. Boom! Hey! Right, anyway, let's keep going. Actual analysis of the games now, guys. So
Zenix, the team known as Zenix Mods Look, which is the amateur team that there are a bunch of amateur players. It's Raphael, Drizzle, Sky, Nika, and Road.
Monty, I believe everyone knows them. You remember that famous clip of them destroying Cloud9 in a scrim? We all know very well the Zenix. No, that is the team, though, I think, that was the one that were in that leaked scrim, I think.
Yeah, and they're the ones that I've said. I think I've talked about them on this show before.
I don't think so.
I can't remember.
Okay.
I haven't talked about them on the show before.
I don't think so.
Really interesting team. They started out. They really made the most of their time scrimming with a lot of the foreign teams at Worlds. Like, they put in a lot of effort over the course of the off season. CLG, we were one of the first teams that started scrimming, and it was like playing against the Borg, right? So we'd set our phasers to kill, and like we'd take them out for a couple games, and then they would just absorb it and keep walking at you, and then they'd assimilate you and use your own technology against you. So we would play certain strats. Like, they weren't playing a lot of Nidalee, and we would have these comps that we would use, and they would die to them at first, and then like the next day we'd scrim them again, and they would use those comps and just kick our ass with them. It was pretty impressive, actually. They got better practice, I think, than they would have gotten had these teams never showed up. But they really used that opportunity well, and they became a pretty good team. So it's going to be fun to see them this weekend. I think people will be surprised. And that's what was so funny to me, was when people flipped out about that Cloud9 scrim getting leaked. They're like, oh, man, Cloud9's just getting, they're getting shit on by this terrible Korean team. What's going on? And like, no, that team is actually, I would say at the time of Worlds, they were probably a top 8 Korean team, hovering somewhere in the like 7 to 10 range probably. So they were actually pretty good.
When you said that thing, okay, about how you would try out these strategies and then the next day they'd sort of adapt and they'd come back, I can already see what's happening. Okay, so you thought to yourself, right, we're playing this Korean team, okay, so the best way is actually like the way you're supposed to practice money is you're supposed to try your real strategies, okay, and you're supposed to see how would they work in a game, and then the idea is the results to a degree will actually tweak it a little bit. Like, you'll see, there's a bit of a weakness here. So first of all, you started out with like a simple strategy. It's where you like had this you had all the team sort of protect your AD carry player, and then you get him like all the shields, and then at the end of the game, like, he's unkillable. And then the first time it was working, and like he got like a pentakill, and then next game they came back and they just like dived him early, like they just like focused him so that like he would like tumble into a dark binding and stuff. Like they adapted, Monty. Eventually they came back, and then so then you went to strategy number 2. Okay, you had to pull listen, you saw that how they adapted. You had to go for something special here. So this time you went for a classic approach where what you do is you have the top laner like split push by himself, but get repeatedly ganked. Like for the first 15, 16 minutes, he just repeatedly ganked all the time. Every time he split pushes, they adapted, they got past it. It worked the first time, then they got past it, they adapted. So then you had to go, right, we've got to really dig deep here, guys. We've got to pull out some high quality strats. So you went with this one that you thought, listen, the best way to really beat these Koreans is we've got to bring some of the Western meta in. So you brought in this quite advanced strategy. It's got a lot of nuance to it. It's called the feeble Froggen mid lane approach, where you have your mid laner play incredibly safe on a farm champion. It was actually invented. There was like the innovation here was this small meta of mid laners in North America. There's one I think he was on Dignitas. There was one on. There was the guy on CLG. You can see where I'm going here, and then eventually they adapted to that as well. So at that point you were like, listen, we've done them all. Those are all of our best strats. That's all I've got for you guys. Like,
it's almost like you've read the CLG playbook.
If you can beat us on that, then you really are just a top 8 Korean team. Like I can see where you came from here, Monty.
No, I'm not just using CLG scrims. FYI, I'm also talking about all the other scrims that I saw of them later on. But yes, but they are going to be a pretty interesting team to watch.
And that's how I felt Voivo was for a lot of the split, where I was like, I've seen him do really well, and I've talked to him about a lot of matchups that I know he knows how to play. But in LCS, he just, I don't know if it's like pressure or like slightly choking. But then in the last, like the playoffs, and then in Super Week of LCS, like we beat them, but even when we beat them, I was like, yeah, Voivo's fucking like doing really well. Like he's stepping up pretty hard. So even during Super Week, I noticed Voivo just was improving like by like a huge amount, and I feel like that just happened to be at a really funny time that you guys commented about him on the show, and then he started doing well. So it's like, I guess it just works out like that. But I think that's kind of just the way it is.
Well, we brought this up before too, but in the second half of the split against the other playoff teams, Curse was 8-2. They were doing well. And we didn't take Curse lightly going into this either. We definitely did not blow Curse off. We actually would have preferred to play Dignitas in the first round. As it went on, we were hoping that, Curse wouldn't win 3 of their games in the last week so that we could play Dig, because we did not want to play Curse, because we knew they were good.
I mean, probably, I think you've actually stumbled on the real secret there. I don't believe in coincidences. I do, actually, but I'm just saying that for the sake of the joke. I don't believe in coincidences, probably. What's happened, I've seen, Amazing has opened my eyes. I'm actually the most beneficial tool to the North American League community that there is. If I can talk enough shit about NA is probably going to win Worlds. Like, I'm going to motivate these motherfuckers like no one has. It's cause think about it, right? If your coach tells you something, he's your coach, you respect him, he's a friend. Okay, you've been trying to please him anyway. You've been trying to do what he says. And if you don't, sometimes it's just failure on that part. But if some annoying British guy starts coming and telling you what to do, Americans at their core, that's what being Americans about, right? You have to stand up and you have to say, no, I can do it on my own. I can be better than you think I can. And then
You're like a human embodiment of the T-Tax.
Yeah. I'm the red coat, and I am coming. So you guys better get your shit together. Better start winning the playoffs. Otherwise, you never know. I'll be talking shit on you. That'll be worse than just losing even, There's the motivation NA needs. Saying that, at this point, I think that would mean, like, next split, like, Nintendo X needs to come back as like the reincarnation of Diamond Prox's mind in Dandy's body with the balls of cacao. So I'm not entirely sure that it always holds true, but we'll see next season, I guess. Yeah, Polly, do you have something?
Oh, no, I mean, I was just taxing on to the, in like American movies, like the asshole always gets the girl. You're the asshole, and NA is the girl. And we're like, come back, Thooorin. We'll always come back to you.
No, I'm like in the movie Braveheart. Do you remember that really great character who played the old British king? And he was like the ultimate asshole because his whole like affrontish attitude. And there's a scene where they say something like, he's like, fire the arrows. And they're like, but sir, they'll hit our own men. And then he says something like, send the Irish. Just says something like that. Like, I'm like that guy, okay? That's my role on this show. Some ridiculous shit. So anyway,
the villain we need.
Yeah.